Hello there, everyone. This is the first in a series of tutorial videos, kind of going over what Shortly AI is and how it can help you with kind of whatever you're doing. Anything that has to do with writing can assist you with that. So if you click the link in the description I have, you'll be taken to a page just like this. And there's two plans for this kind of artificial intelligent writing assistant thing. It's one is by the month, and well, one is by the month over there, and one is by the year. And per year, it's cheaper, and the first 2 months are free. And so you guys are gonna sign up, but I'm just gonna log into my account right here. So what you'll notice when you kind of log in for the first time is that this is going to be empty. There's going to be nothing of this. And so you can kind of search through your writing, all the things you've written, and there will be this button over here. And so this is a pretty important button. When you click on this button, you will be greeted with two language models to use. One good way to think of this as styles. On the left here, you've got something tuned towards more of the style of a nonfiction article, and on the right here, you've got stuff for creative generation. But the thing to keep in mind is this doesn't make nonfiction factual things. It just writes in the style of factual nonfiction things. And so anything that it writes, it's not necessarily going to be true. Same thing with the creative story, of course. And so we can hop right into the nonfiction model that we're going to be looking at for this video. And so in this tuned language model, we've got kind of this interface. And so I'm just going to be going over how to use it. So this is kind of the main spot where you'll be doing a lot of the writing. And so you've got kind of this place on the left. Let me just describe kind of what everything does. So this feather over here, you can click it to go back to the main page where all of your writings are. You can click this to expand it, and it'll give you your writing statistics. So it'll tell you how many pages you've written, how many words you've written, and how many characters you've written total. And so that can be used to kind of keep track of how much you've already kind of typed through this. Over here, this is a really, really powerful component of this interface. You basically provide the AI with a brief description of what you were talking about in natural language. So what that means is you just describe it like you're talking about the article to someone or whatever you're writing to someone. You just describe like, oh, I want an article describing blah and blah. And so it'll just kind of write based on this as the prompt. So the article brief is a really, really powerful part of the interface. And so we've got some other things here. The output length is basically how much the AI should write at a time. So you can write a very small amount every generation. You can write like an intermediate amount or kind of a lot at once. Um, so this below that is this really important button, which you can also use a shortcut for on your keyboard. Control and Enter keys. You just press that at the same time. It'll do the same thing as the button, which is what I end up doing most of the time, but this button will expand from what you write in here. So actually, what this is, it's two text fields. You can write a title, which can also be considered as part of the prompt, or you can write just anything here. You don't actually have to write a title for it to start generating anything. And so this text box is freeform, so you can basically put anything down that you would like to. And I'm gonna kind of go over some things that you can do, examples that you can do. So this main part of the fields where you can either put in a title or you can just start writing, they're the most important parts of this interface, this software. You don't actually need to put a title, but if you want to put a title, you can. And this is also considered as part of the response, part of the prompt. So the way that the underlying technology works is you basically give it something I want to write about. You just pretty much put any set of words down. It doesn't really matter what. It can be as vague as you want, but the more specific you are about kind of the text you create, the better you'll get exactly what you're looking for. And so I don't know what it's going to write for this. I I didn't put anything really specific or kind of directed, but it doesn't matter to it. It basically takes in this text and it tries to find kind of what it expects you would think it would write. That's it's better kind of displayed than talked about. So you can press this button, write for me, and it will start to expand using this block of text as the prompt. And so after a couple seconds, it will start writing something. And so it actually can write something completely different for everything that it generates. So say that this is nothing like what you want it to do, right? And you want to do something completely different. There, after you press this write for me button, there's an undo button, which will just undo and delete everything that it wrote additionally. Or you can do a redo button, which is really helpful when you kind of want to kind of like brainstorm and redo a response based on what you had originally. So I just press the redo button right there, and it will kind of do something different. And so I made it so vague to the point where it might write about whatever. It might be completely irrelevant to what you want to do. So what I'm going to show you guys next is a bunch of examples that will actually be kind of helpful for you guys. So here we go. So here's another example. You can actually have it work as a tutor. For example, if we wanted to make a tutor for machine learning or artificial intelligence language models, which actually the whole thing is built off of this language model. So it's kind of a very meta thing, but you can just structure it out like this, and it doesn't even have to be about machine learning and AI. You could have it be about the English language. And you could just delete this and then make sure to replace this with English tutor, and then just ask some questions about the English language and give some responses to act as an example, and it will follow that same structure. But we're just going to kind of, you know, we're going to use this and see what it comes out with. So over here, it's like, what is a statistical model? And so the tutor responded, this didn't exist before. A statistical model is a model that makes predictions based on some set of observations, which are usually not supposed to be true in the real world. And so you can just redo that, and it'll give you a completely different response. So it doesn't know if anything it writes is true or not. It just writes things that it thinks are kind of what you expect it to write. A statistical model is a logical model with random variables and likelihoods that are learned from data. This is true from what I know about statistics, and so it extrapolates, and you ask, what are likelihoods? Likelihoods are functions expressing the probability of observing a particular. So this thing is extremely flexible. You can use it to learn anything. You can basically have a universal tutor to teach you about any topic. If you want to learn about history, if you want to learn about world government, or kind of science, art, music, anything, this could probably help you in some manner. And so it's very, very interesting. So we're going to go off into our next example. So in our next example, we're going to kind of talk about writing essays and stuff using this. So you can have a prompt that's sort of like a command. Create an outline for an essay about Walt Disney and his contributions to animation. Then you have this colon after, so it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's kind of structured as kind of a list. And for the first one, you just put in the introduction, like you just say the word introduction, and then this is I, and then you can have it write something for you. And so since this is an outline, it'll give you kind of an outline of how these things are, and you'll see that after This is completely unrelated to what it wrote before. That's because it's trying to do a matching of the pattern of this language. And so if you regenerate this, it might give you something just completely different. And usually it does. And so over here you see introductions, early years, Disney establishes animation studio. And it can actually start writing the actual piece of the text. So if we expand from here, you'll notice that it will just kind of keep going and keep going. And so you don't actually know if this is factual or not, but it's confident that it is, but it doesn't know if it's true or not. That's up to you to figure out the truth level of actually all of these statements, because this artificial intelligence is trained on a lot of what is on the internet, 60% of it. And so you shouldn't believe everything you read on the internet, but this does not know how to tell the difference. And so it's trained on all of that data, and it can't know what's real or not. And so it's important to, when you use this, don't just think that all of the hard work of knowing what's real or not is just put on the AI, because there's actually no way to even articulate what is true or not using kind of maths and science, in terms of kind of describing things and information. It always depends on the context of the people kind of like interacting with that information. So it has no way to know. It's always up to the human beings to verify. And so for creating essays, you don't have to write an essay about Walt Disney if you don't want to. All you have to do is modify the words that talk about, Walt Disney, create an outline for an essay about the history of the universe. And instead of his contribution to animations, right, and how it came to be. So you can just modify it really, really rapidly like that. And here you go. You can just have it write some parts about this topic. And so this can be used as kind of a jumping off point for writing more and more complex writing. And so if we delete this, since it's trained on all the things on the internet, you'll get stuff like this: homework outline. So it seems like it's kind of from somewhere on the internet. It's taking from some, it's learning from some homework assignment somewhere about the history of the universe. If we continue, try something else different, it will write something completely different. And a lot of the text that it generates, if you kind of take it, like take a copy paste in and go to Google, they're not actually quotes. A lot of it is actually, it just generates on its own. Because of how it's trained, it has this internal structure and understanding of language itself. So it can just generate things that sound like a person made it. And that's really surreal. And that's what makes this so powerful, because you cannot distinguish between it and a human being. So that's that example. And we're just going to jump into our next example right here. And so for the next example, what we've got here is a generation of a restaurant review based on these notes. So you just give it the name of the restaurant, and you just describe, like, how the restaurant is, like just notes on it. And then put the word review. This word in particular is specifically important because it reinforces this. It wants to write the review because it's like, oh, I see a review here, and then colon. It's like, I should probably put the review there. Then you can complete over there, and as you can see, it writes a review. And you can't tell that it wasn't written by a person. Try redoing it, and it will write you a completely different review. And so this is extremely powerful because it allows you to emulate all of these things in language that sounds natural. And you don't really need to do anything except give the initial kind of prompt of what you want. And so that is the restaurant review. So we're going to go into our next example right here. All right, our next example is another thing for learning. So if you want to make a bunch of notes for kind of something you're studying, in particular over here, we're just doing something for ancient Rome, but you can put basically anything you can think of, even the most obscure topic. I believe the training data is from 2019 and before, so anything pretty much on the internet before 2019, or on 2019 and before that, you can probably learn about. And so let's try generating some key points for this. And so you give it the start, like an example, like how you want it to start listing this information. And you see 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll give you in that structure. You don't even have to make it like do this. You can have it, instead of being key points, what are some important figures I should know when studying ancient Rome? What are some important dates I should know? So it's up to you to decide actually how you structure the information you're looking for, but work backwards. Think, what do you want to know about, and how can you ask the question to know about that? That is the best way to find exactly what you're looking for from it. And so over here you can see some key points. I don't know how much of it is factual. I'd have to brush up on my ancient Rome history, but it gives you a jumping off point to kind of know, like, okay, this is probably something important to talk about. And what if we just redo that, right? What if we redo that and we look at some other points? And so in a couple of seconds, it'll just generate things rapidly. It's kind of incredible, really, and in a sense, a bit surreal. So instead of ancient Rome, what about studying the science of cognition? If I guess you are a student of the brain and you want to know about how the brain is, doing its thing. I don't know. I mean, I do know, but anyways, we've got over here some points about the brain. I mean, this is true. It is the most complicated organ in the body. And so this allows you a quick way to study various things really, really, really rapidly without having to search up things and stuff. And if you already have a cursory understanding of how to tell if a thing is real or not, which I'm hoping you're already applying critical thinking to just anything you read, but it allows you to explore a lot of ideas really, really rapidly. Spaces that you don't know anything about, stuff like that. And so, yeah, that's this example. So the last example that I'm going to show you guys, I mean, there's like a billion examples I could do, but we would be here all day. You can actually summarize an entire block of text. And the way you do that is you just put TL semicolon DR. What that stands for is too long didn't read. So you don't even have to put that word. You could just put summary, but we like being fancy here. And so it will just basically put your cursor there, and it will give you a summary. And so that can be particularly useful. But sometimes, sometimes it's not great. But this is the main point. Massive stars collapse into neutron stars. And so over here you can see, if I just do summary, it'll give me the exact same kind of thing. I'm basically leading it towards some structure of language that is what I'm looking for. Actually, don't do summary. It's it's not that just, yeah, it just copied what it said over there. So yeah, you kind of have to experiment with it in a way where it works for you, because some things that would seem obvious, like summary, colon, um, that would work. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does. This is not a particularly smart technology. It's more like it has so much data where you can get it to do what you want if you know how to structure that. So, too long, didn't read. The reason why this works so well is because all the people on Reddit and other sites who kind of who have put this at the end of their posts to summarize their posts. It's got a lot of examples that it's trained on. Um, but yeah, it definitely takes a lot of experimentation to understand like how you can use this the most effectively. Um, and also some other parts I should show you are on the bottom right. You've got some commands over here that you can use. The most powerful one is instruct, which you can use by just typing /instruct, and inside square brackets, just saying, I want you to write, just say a command, write about whatever. I want you to write about sea anemones. I don't know how to spell anemones, but let's see what it writes. So it writes that. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it can get you a massive amount of text about pretty much any topic really rapidly, original text in particular. And so I'll show you guys more of the commands in later episodes, but the instruct one is really powerful. So I thought I'd give you a little overview of that one. And so you can also share your thing that you generate. You can make it public and get a link, or you can delete something. And then there's a save button, so you can save things to your main thing. So that's basically how Shortly AI works. And so you can actually purchase a registration right now. In the description, I have a link that you can click, and you can get this thing, and it is very, very powerful, and it's going to rapidly transform industries. So if you want to kind of have a competitive edge in your job, I suggest you purchase it immediately. Yeah, and I'm also going to be going over some other technologies and stuff that you can use that can help you with automating a lot of job stuff. So thanks for watching.